Today what I wanted to do was go over what happened in the 2 months of Interrail. Before I get into the video as well, welcome back to the channel. It has been almost 2 months since I've came back from travelling and I'm settling back into Scotland. It feels slightly different, it feels like it was last year, but I think this was the perfect time to actually go over everything that happened in the Interrail, go down to the details of what places, what happened in that, what I felt each place had to offer. And I think this is probably the perfect idea to do the whole summary video. If you have watched the travelling like all the way through, you still might want to watch this as just like a summary to go over absolutely everything in the one video. Also, I will be doing 2 other videos. The first one will be the pros and cons of Interrail, so I'll go into just Interrail specific. And then the other one will be a very short one and it will be going over the other video I did, which was the travel bag, and I'll go over things that you need to take, you probably don't need to take, and then things to consider. Also, before I get into the nitty gritty as well, I will show you my route on the screen, and the only thing that might be complicated is I went from like Germany to Denmark to Germany again. I'll explain that when I get there. And also, if you don't know what Interrail is where you use the train line to actually travel around the countries in Europe. So I left on the 3rd of July, which I was going to go to Belgium. And originally I was meant to go to London to Belgium, and I was meant to start on the 1st, but I basically removed the first 2 days of the trip because first off, I couldn't get a reservation to get to London. It was going to cost lots of money to try and get to London and also to stay in London. So I basically cut the London out of the trip and I just went straight to Belgium, and it was Belgium for 2 nights. First night was in Charleroi, which is Charleroi. The second place was Antwerp. So the first place when I got there, and the way I was feeling actually was quite uncertain. It was actually the unknown. It wasn't too scary, it wasn't too exciting. It was just like I was starting my trip and it was just strange. The first place I stayed was from the 3rd to the 4th. So it was in Charleroi Youth Hostel, I think that's how you say it. It was only for 1 night. Also, the Charleroi Youth Hostel was €25. And when I got there, it was actually very strange. I don't know, it felt weird just staying in this place because I was sleeping with 8 other people. It's just a weird feeling for the first time in my life actually doing that. A youth hostel usually means that it's a mix of people, so kids. You've got people who are travelling, you also get people who are much older. That's just something to consider as well. But it was okay. Belgium, at that point in time, I just wanted food. I just wanted to actually settle down for the first night. So it didn't take long for me to get to Antwerp, and Antwerp was much better, in my opinion. The hostel in Antwerp was called Just Antwerp, which is, honestly, it's immaculate, and that was from the 4th to the 5th of July. For Antwerp, it was €30, and this was for the 8 bed. And in this hostel as well, there was curtains, the bed was immaculate, honestly. One of the best hostels I stayed in. But everything was closed for the day, so the restaurant, the cinema, everything like that was shut for the day. And this was pretty much the first time I was experimenting with how far from the hostel I go, what shops I need to go to, the budget I'm spending for each day. Yes, I had a budget. It was about £40 for my budget, and this was kind of the first day I was trying to experiment with it, with the shopping. It was also the first time I actually ended up speaking to people within the hostel. Yes, the first place I did, but it was brief. Whereas this one, you're actually speaking to people in the kitchen. Everything was great in Antwerp, but it was shut. Next place I stayed was Rotterdam, which was in Netherlands, and I can't remember how long it took me. It wasn't long, definitely wasn't long, maybe like 3 hours, which in this trip, it was not long. And this was the first place I got off the train and I felt like new. So I stayed in a place in Rotterdam called King Kong Hostel Rotterdam. For Rotterdam, it was £26 a night. The place, the actual room, was a little bit more open. It didn't feel secure that much. It was like the iron one, so when, see if you moved, you would hear everything. And I was sleeping above a guy who literally snored like, honestly, don't even want to start. It was the worst snoring I've ever heard in my life. But Rotterdam was the first time I felt good. I'm meant to be doing this, I'm meant to be travelling. It was the first place I actually went and done stuff. So the zoo, I also went a run and actually worked out at a park. I also rented a bike and actually seen the whole place. And also it was the first time I actually properly spoke to people and actually went for a drink. I actually met a boy called Ryan who was doing the Spanish walk, the Northern Walk. Just getting to know his story, and that's the thing about the hostels, is you actually get to know people along the way, and it's just people on a similar kind of route as you, or totally different. And it's fun to know. And it's kind of strange because the place before was perfect, but this place was just fun. It was like sociable. Next place was a nightmare. And when I say place, I mean like the whole journey was a nightmare. Proper drained me to the point where I was like, oh my god, what am I doing? We're going to Germany next. Pretty close to Netherlands, but it was in a place called Hamburg, and it wasn't actually meant to take me that long. And I was staying at a place called Backpacker St. Pauli. For Hamburg as well, it was £35 a night, which was very expensive for what I actually was given. Train, I had to get 11, not 10, not 9, 11 trains that day, and a bus. 10.5 hours to get to Hamburg from Rotterdam. I will speak about this in the Interrail video, but it's the German trains. They're always delayed or early, but again, this would just be my personal experience. It could be perfect on everyone else. This hostel wasn't great for me. It was too open like a pub. There was too many people like walking about. And when I got there, there was a festival and I couldn't even get in the hostel for an hour. But eventually I managed to see the hostel. Again, it wasn't great. It was one of the comfiest beds, but it wasn't great. Kind of the first time I actually went out as well, so I ended up enjoying the festival for a bit. The following day I went down to a calisthenics park. Then I went down to the harbour bit, and it was just a strange atmosphere. Anyway, next place was Denmark, okay, which was another nightmare. There was so many cancellations, and it took another 10 hours to try and get to Copenhagen. But the upside as well, I was staying with my brother Connor, so he was flying over from Scotland for 4 nights to come and meet me. It was totally buzzing. It was like I was seeing a familiar face. When I got there as well, it wasn't a long walk, but I stayed in a place called the Generator Copenhagen, which was, Generator's like a common place in a hostel. Okay, this place was also like £25 to like £30 a night, but this place was totally different. So when I actually got there, it was more enjoying it with Connor. So much fun with the food, the nights out. It was the first time I actually properly went nights out because I was doing more things during the day, whereas Connor, it was like day and night. So I was pretty tired by the end of it. In Copenhagen, it ended up being one of my favourite places, but we ended up going to the gym. We ended up going down to the harbour area. We also went to the Tivoli Centre, which is like the Tivoli Park, and we ended up just exploring everything as well, which I absolutely loved. It actually felt very long, and I wish we stayed there for longer. And if you have watched the Copenhagen video, it was full of like lots of food. That's pretty much the highlight of Copenhagen, was the food. Anyway, Connor left, and I went to another place in Denmark called, I cannot say this, but it's Aarhus, but it's like Aarhus, I think it is. And I stayed in a place called the Book One Design Hostel, which again is very hard for me to pick my favourite hostel, but this is up there with one of the best. It had a mini golf course, it had pretty much everything. It was one of the cleanest places I stayed in, and I'm not sure if it was just because it was new or like the staff. It was just amazing. £28 a night, which was even cheaper than, even when you're comparing it to like Hamburg. The condition of this place to Hamburg, night and day. And when I got here as well, it was a little bit more chilled. Everyone in Denmark is so approachable, they communicate properly, they understand everything, and there was so much to do here as well. I went to see the deer, I also went to the beach gym, and then also went to a place called Dingammelby, I think it is, which is the old town. Stunning. It was breathtaking. It shows the history of Denmark and that place in particular. Also went to the art museum on the first night. So basically this place and Denmark in general was probably one of my favourite places to actually visit. I stayed there for 8 days, and I'm so glad I did as well, because it was full of so much things that I like to do, and it was just very special to me. Then we had another journey back to Germany. And also, see if you're watching this and you're from Germany, like, can you comment if you have that issue or if it was just me? But basically I was staying in a place called the Generator Hamburg, and again, the Generator is just a common place. It's like a chain of places. £31, so it was cheaper than the other Hamburg place, like right outside the station, which was perfect. In my opinion, Hamburg didn't offer to me like as much as the other places. Businessy, I felt like people there were just there to work. So we'll kind of quickly move on from there. Then we go to another place in Germany. This place is called Nina Hostel Berlin. It is £37 a night, and this place was quite far from the main station. And when I got there, it was a long journey. Again, everything was delayed. For me, Berlin was full of so many things, like one of the biggest cities I've ever been to. So when I got there, I think it was the first day, I went to the Great Wall Memorial. There was there was so many stuff to see, like even that small wee compartment was like so informative. It was really, really nice, but I did get soaked that night. And if you are staying in Berlin, maybe pick something that's like main station area. So I did that. Then I also went to the Berlin Zoo, which for me was excellent. When you're in Berlin, just have a chance to walk. You can't exactly walk everywhere because it's impossible, but just have a chance to walk everywhere and actually take in everything. And then you must go to Museum Island. And also I went to the gym in Berlin, and the last two things I did on the last day, even though it was heaving, I went to the Jew Memorial. I went to the Reichstag on the last day, and it was beautiful again. And also the funniest thing happened in Berlin, there was a lioness on the loose. It was strange. I remember getting a call from my family about stay inside, there's a lioness in the loose. So anyway, we'll move on. So the next place I was going to was totally different, and it was the eastern part of Europe. So I was going to a place, Prague, in Czech Republic. and it was staying in a place called Sophie's Hostel. So the journey was quite long, and I was staying here for 5 nights. So this place was £22 a night, which was not bad. Sophie's Hostel was more sociable, again, kind of like Rotterdam, so there was a lot of things to do. I would recommend that hostel. It was very, very close to the old town, and it was also very, very close to the main station. There's lots of things I did when I was in Prague. First thing was, in terms of fitness, pretty sure I went a run, calisthenics and the gym. Then I did a historic boat ride, Prague Castle. Also when I was at Prague, I also went to the beer museum, which was strange, but ended up having 4 free beers with €12 ticket. And also something really special as well, I got my first haircut in Prague, which was on the last day. There's probably other stuff as well, but when I actually got to Prague, it just felt totally different. That's just the best way to do it. When I was in Germany to now, I felt more comfortable, as in I knew the trains weren't going to be an issue, and I felt like I was in a loop the first part of Europe. So it was like Denmark to Germany, Germany to Denmark. Like, I felt like it was a little bit of a loop. The next place I was going to was down, which was to a place called Vienna in Austria. Even the train journey was beautiful. Stayed at a place called, oh my god, I want to say this, Hostel Ruthensteiner, Vienna, from the 28th to the 31st of July, so it was 3 nights. Blown away by how good this place was. 10 out of 10 from the staff, 10 out of 10 from the place, the location. Like, I cannot stress enough how amazing this place was. If you're looking to meet people, to do things, and to be part of like a community, this is the place. And this place is rated like 9.5 out of 10, and it's got thousands of reviews. It was £37 a night, and it's worth it. So when I was in Vienna as well, there was so many things to actually see. The first thing I did when I got to Vienna was Schönbrunn Garden. Yeah. And the view was incredible. I'll show you in this, but the view was absolutely stunning. The walk up it was not stunning. Then the next day I did a morning run, and I went to a place called the Belvedere Museum. And on that day as well, I actually went to, you can basically visit this certain canal and swim in the water with the swans. It's somewhere I would recommend visiting if it's like a lovely day and you can sit by the beach. And I also went to, which I thought was amazing, was the Natural History Museum, and this was long. This was so long, but if you're into that kind of things. Vienna as well hit me by surprise. It was one of those places I did not expect to be as good, and my god, it was stunning. The place was, the word to describe it was stunning. Right, the next place I was going to was, again, staying Eastern, and it was down again, and it was to Ljubljana, which was in Slovenia. 4 nights. It was just a different style of place to this trip. It was the start of the next month, and it was kind of the halfway point. So this place is called the Sax Pub Hostel. £29 a night. Yeah, it was cosy. This place was like not a massive chain. It was a pub. I thought it was going to be similar to Hamburg, but it wasn't. It was nicer. It was nicer, and I had a single bed. Not a bunk bed, single. I did the Ljubljana Castle, which for me was quite a letdown because everything got kind of refurbished. Yes, it told you the history, but it was quite new. The funniest thing was when I got to the top of the castle as well, it just started chucking it down. So any photos I got was in the rain. And I also managed to go to the gym in this place. Again, I tried to do the gym in most places once or twice a week, or a run. And I did go a run as well, which again, it let me see the place for what it is. And if you do like keeping fit, this is just a great way of seeing the place. And then one of my favourite things I did in the whole trip was Lake Bled. And I can't stress enough that the place is stunning. Lake Bled is quite famous in Europe for just being, it's got a church in the middle, and it's surrounded by this lake, and it is beautiful. It's not a long journey to get there. It's like a bus, maybe takes you like an hour, and it's cheap. Worst experience of the travelling was the weather in Ljubljana. When I left at 5 AM in Ljubljana, I left the hostel at 4, or I think it was about. I forgot all my lunch because I was so focused on the weather. I basically left everything I prepared. Trying to hand in my key, and I realised the key bit was on the outside, and I can't describe this weather. The raindrops were like that, yay big. Everything was soaked, all my bag was soaked, and I had to walk from there to the station, half an hour in that rain. And I had my camera, and just, I can't describe, it was one of the worst experiences of my life, and I was genuinely about to cry. I'm not making this train, I'll wait till the weather's good. But anyway, if I didn't do that, if I didn't leave that time, I'd have stayed there in that weather for 2 days. Got changed in the toilet, had to put swim shorts on, flip-flops to get to a 7-hour journey to Venice, or 8 hours. And yeah, terrible. I didn't even want to talk about it. The next destination was Venice. I stayed in a place called A&O Hostel, Venice Mestra. So Mestra is like just outside the actual Venice. £28. Again, it was very like romantic and stuff like that, but when I actually got into Venice, there was not a lot to do apart from eating and like spending money. But it was just okay for me. Like, it wasn't the kind of place I would like to go back to. It was a once in a lifetime kind of thing. You'd probably go back as a couple, and that's it. The weather wasn't great. The worst thing about it was I cooked the first night, and when I woke up, everything got stolen. But anyway, I was going to Rome next for 2 nights. Palladini Hostel Rome, £37 a night. This place was okay. The location was just outside the station, but it allowed me to get to the station to go and see places. The first night I just went for shopping because nothing else was open, but it allowed me to kind of plan for the next day. I ran into 2 boys who were like, this you could do, this you could do, this you could. So I was like, wow, okay, on the laptop, go on the laptop, and then just managed to book as much as I could. A little bit more pricey than I would normally do, and it was the most expensive place when I got there because I was like, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. I only had 1 day. Colosseum, the Roman Forum, the Palatine Hill, then I went to the Vatican City tour and I did the Vatican City museums. I did the Sistine Chapel and then St Peter's Basilica. And then the last thing for my mum, I went to Trevi Fountain and I threw coins in for her and I did the wee video. And that was at like 6 AM. So if you're going to go to the Trevi Fountain, go early. But Rome to me was one of the best experiences of my life. It was so full of stuff. Go there to experience it once in your life. Please do it. Spend the money, like it's worth it. But anyway, Rome is probably up there my favourite places and probably my favourite day, like top 3. The next place we were going to was Milan, and it kind of run through this. I stayed in a place called the Yellow Square Milan and it was £40, and this place was like amazing. When I say standard of hostel, the hostel was beautiful. The kitchen, the social area, the bed. I was only there for 1 night and I actually don't even remember sleeping. I changed because I was originally going to stay here for 3 nights and I changed to Rome and I'm so glad I did. But anyway, going through Milan, I can't even speak about Milan because I hardly seen it. And here's when it gets to my favourite place, Switzerland. So I stayed in a place called Lucerne. Lucerne allowed me to get to a place called Interlaken, which I'll go over. There was a bunch of stuff I did when I was in Switzerland, but the first thing I will say, special mention to Lugano. But before I got to Lucerne, I had to make a stop at Lugano, and I'll probably stay there in the future because, my God, that place was breathtaking. Ran down the hill, sprinted, because I only had like half an hour, sprinted back up, got photos, took in the views, and I tell you, go there if you can. I stayed in a place called the Lucerne Youth Hostel, which isn't far from the main station, and it was £48 a night, and I stayed there for 3, so it was one of the pricier ones. This place was okay. Like again, youth hostels, you get kids, you get adults, you get travellers. It's kind of random. I love Switzerland because they give you like a Swiss card and you get a lot of discounts, free buses. The whole place was just a good vibe. Like, I visited the main lake, the Lucerne Lake, and the first day I just basically had a good walk around, a good run around the lake behind the youth hostel. Then the next day I went to Mount Pilatus. Unbelievable. And if you do not like heights, do not do Mount Pilatus, but if you are wanting to experience something like this, do it. It's worth the money. It's worth the excitement and the butterflies. Like everything, the air is crisp up there. It is beautiful. It's probably one of my favourite things. Again, top 3 things I did in this trip. And then I went to, I think it's called the Chapel Bridge. Then the next day I did Interlaken. Like scary accurate to a dream. The place doesn't look real. The water, the sky, the mountains. This place is beyond your wildest dream. And then the last place I went to in Switzerland was Geneva. So I stayed in a place called Geneva Hostel and I had to travel there, which was fine, just different. It was more city-like. It wasn't kind of like countryside vibe. And it was really, really nice. The actual hostel was good again. And what I will say about all these hostels is in Switzerland, they had free breakfast. Perfect. £39 again, like 40 odd quid. I'd say Geneva for me was quite decent. I went to a calisthenics park, went down to the waterside. Everything was shut this day and it was a weekend. I also just sat at the beach. So nothing like too adventurous, but I felt like I was trying to like calm down from seeing the Interlaken and Mount Pilatus. Anyway, last 2 places I went to was France and Spain. So first one is France, and I went to Lyon. So when I was in Lyon, I stayed in a place called Yazzie Hostel. The Yazzie Hostel cost me £29, and this hostel again was more of a smaller chain, so they actually care about you a lot, even the free breakfast as well. The bed was beautiful, the curtain, I love when it's got a curtain. But anyway, I went to the Rotterdam, also ate out that day, and I also went to the gym. Yeah, that's it. But I wasn't staying for that long. The next place I stayed in was Toulouse, which was, I can't remember the train journey, it was quite quick, and I stayed in a place called Elco Toulouse, and when I got there, I turned up and they're like, you booked a single bed, a single room? And I was like, nope. She's like, no, we've upgraded you to a single room, and it was my birthday the next day. I'm like, I don't know if they might have known. The Elco hostel cost me £28 as well. Anyway, it worked out well because they overbooked, and this place was just special to me because I got my single bed and a single room. I felt so grateful to be able to stay in a single room after all this time. I would recommend this hostel as well because it is like stunning again. Like, I explored, I went to like different parks. It wasn't too much. I went to a couple of the churches as well, and then I went to the gym and also just relaxed for my birthday, had a couple of drinks. Then I was going to a place in Spain called Barcelona, so you'll know that. So I've been here before, stayed totally different kind of holiday when I was younger. This place is called Unite Hostel Barca, £39 a night, and it was from 18th to the 21st. So when I was in Barcelona, I went to Sagrada Familia, which I didn't actually go in, but the views as well were very, very nice. There was a lot of people talking about theft, so just keep that in mind. Keeping everything secure using zip pockets, or just keeping a hold of everything, because a few people got like their phone stolen, their camera. I also went to a gym called the Viva Gym. Very, very nice. Third thing I did was went to the beach most days. And the last thing as well, which was the most special to me, was I went to a Barcelona game. So not Camp Nou, it was in their Olympic stadium, but it's because Camp Nou is getting refurbished. The last place was Malaga. It's hard for me to fit everything in Malaga. The family came over, so Regan, Ashley and Kyle. So it was more like a family holiday. It was lovely. Like, I could not have went home after Barcelona. Totally different style of holiday again. It's probably my favourite part about the whole trip. With the pool, the Torremolinos water park, going out, like everything, we fit in a lot. We genuinely fit in a lot that holiday, and it felt like a lifetime. The whole holiday felt long, so I can't really do it justice in this video. And also I can't access the Airbnb now. Amazing, 3 floors, rooftop, the pool as well, private. The whole place was private, just honestly breathtaking. The way I can summarise it was a perfect end to the 2 months journey. And it was also lovely to actually leave with them and not leave by myself. It just felt very comforting instead of having to like go home myself. Anyway, we have came to the end of the 2 months journey. And if you have any questions of why I did it, why I did the route, or can you send me more information, can you tell me more about this, I'm happy to do that. But in terms of if you are looking to do something similar, do it. Like, it is amazing. If you're from Scotland as well and from the UK, this is definitely a route I would definitely recommend. There's also like 100 different factors that allowed me to enjoy this as much as I did. Just your luck. If you get good weather, like you time it perfectly, you meet people. All I will say is if you're looking to do something very similar, I would recommend it. And this video is obviously not for me to talk about Interrail or anything like that. It's just for me to actually share my journey and kind of share you like snippets of what actually happened in my journey, because it was long, it was full of so much stuff. But again, this was obviously a journey and a trip I would remember for the rest of my life. There's a lot of places in Europe that are very, very special to me and I'll never forget. But hopefully you did enjoy this video, and if you did, remember to drop a like, and if you are not currently subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button and there will be different content from now. Also hit the alarm bell, as this will notify you when I've uploaded a new video. Also what I'll do is I'll put my socials on the screen as well if you want to go and see regular content from myself instead of like once a week. And also I'll put the coaching application in the description if you want to do online coaching. Again, it's a holiday video and I know it, but my usual content is fitness. But anyway people, stay safe, stay positive, stay grateful, and I will see you in the next one.